lot about a theory of government with virtual states. Basically, well, if you take government, most governments in the world were founded off of ideas from several hundred years ago, if not outright founded several hundred years ago. And you won't find anything in modern society that is from several hundred years ago that's used practically. I mean, vehicles and all the rest of the stuff is all modern stuff since the 20th century. So you don't find really any 20th century states, and the states are based on trust, on trusting the people that are in these positions, and there's no real definitive way to guarantee their integrity. So I mean, all states are inherently corrupt, especially when the notion of electing the corrupt is promoted in society, where these are positions of trust and the people in them are lauded as supposed to be liars, which is pretty stupid. Actually, very stupid to do. So I was thinking a lot about virtual states and having states that operate with computer systems and and people in cooperation that have this notion of trust as the core competency with the entire structure. So you want to have as much. You want to be able to gauge the amount of trust of the people or machines that hold the positions, and of course have the people in these positions have the highest score. I mean, whereas people elected now are supposedly elected based on their education, you would be electing people based on how much you can trust them, or machines. And it brings up a lot of interesting ideas. What I'm thinking of doing is, for instance, in order to become a state, you have to file a charter with the United Nations and then get approved by the board, and they will call you a state. But there was no, in the legal documents for filing for to be recognized as a state, there was nothing in there about ownership of land. It was just about more or less petitioning them with all the citizens that you have. Well, I was thinking, well, I can use this system more or less, the way it is now, to simulate a very well. I mean, it's a finite value, but a very high, millions of different possible government structures, and combine that with a fluctuating degree of integrity in the positions. I was thinking of simulating it with a bunch of people that are really corrupt, and then finding the best one out of all of those, and then simulating it with people that had a degree of trust in it, and then seeing how well they perform, because I would assume that there is going to be multiple results. So I've written a lot about it. I haven't found anybody yet that really talks about the idea. Like, I've gone online and I looked for people who are talking about things like e-democracy, but mostly everybody is really behind on it and looks at it too theoretically rather than practically. They have things like the Freemasons, which are these societies within societies, well, why not have a full government within a old existing institution like a republic? Because this way it's more likely to turn out like a technocracy than it is now, when it's, you know, based off of education for the position, and, you know, it's not actually performing that way the way it is now. Yeah, like I said, I came up with some ideas. These ones weren't simulated. These are just concepts I thought through that were simulated. And, you know, I was coming up with this concept in it, and, you know, like Noam Chomsky has this idea he calls anarcho-syndicalism, where it's basically people do whatever they want within these syndicates, you know, which kind of have a way of agreement with each other. It's kind of a unionist type of system where it's like mobs are like states. So you just have these tons of mobs, and it works on some kind of a contractual agreement. Well, it works kind of like that, but they're not whole groups. They're not defined groups. Like he believes in like defining syndicates as like a you know, by a specific title. Whereas what I would say is that it's relative to every individual. Every individual can be a member of as many different groups as they want to be. But for every individual, when they're a member of a group and they don't like somebody in the group and have disagreements with maybe many people in the group, they will not actually exist within that form of government. So it's like anarcho-syndicalism in how you have these mobs, except everybody is sort of connected through all of them, one way through maybe just one person. So it creates more diplomacy, where instead of having this agreement, you actually, every group will have spies in it, you know. So nobody is really, except the only person that is a victim in it is the loner. And you know, loners will exist within all of them simultaneously. But you know, I wanted to make a video where I was laying out a projections for all of this stuff, because I wanted to show people, like investors and real people, that it's a practical idea and that it works. But I don't have the software right now, and I don't have I just don't have the time for it. So the best I can do is make these videos about it, because this is the kind of form I think that it's going to take. Because what you can do, you know, with it is you could have very large debates. You know, you might have 100 people on your screen at any given time, and they can all argue about various things, or at least, you know, have a very objective debate about how they want to go about allocating their resources with other people that they're talking to. Because you know, I was outside the store, and this just happened. I was walking up to a McDonald's to get something to drink, and I was asking people for change. I was asking people for like a quarter or whatever, because I got my money in PayPal and I can't access it. Well, most of the people were told to, you know, say no, you know, and some people had made up their own mind, and then other people offered to give me like a quarter or like a dime or whatever. Well, you deal with these things of total resource deprivation, right? So they take an individual and totally deprive them of all his resources. So say you know, I'm in this position, you know, basically, and in the mindset of regular people, I am going to be totally deprived, and I'm not going to be able to do anything anywhere in the world, right? Well, when you apply this augmented reality, this intelligent systems to reality that take me, improve me, and make me kind of like a cyborg, and allows me to be aware of how many resources there are even within a desert. You have to realize, just how amazing it is that I'm actually in this situation, and they're actually simulating that possibility, and I am able, like I said, I have that money in PayPal. I'm able to go and make a lot of money. Like I can make like $6,000 this month if I just sat down, stopped writing my regular software, used my software, and just sat down and started doing it. I'd make like $6,000 right away. And that's on a skill-based idea. But what you can do is you can train, or you can take materials and build crafts out of them, and use them to trade over these channels. It's heavily internet centric, but I took that out and made it heavily network centric, where utilize this high amount of machines, but you don't necessarily require the internet in order to engage in commerce. But it really makes my point about this whole thing, because imagine if I was in a hotel room all day long just working, and I made all that money, and I or more, I would probably make more than that, but I because for many reasons. And then I have all these possessions and everything like that, and the speed, increases much quicker, because if I was a regular person with all the resources that they have available to them, and I applied these systems to it, it would be very easy to quickly, make several $1 million. And I'm thinking about that, and then when you apply this to a country, right? Okay, so you have this virtual state, and all the privileges system. This stuff is worked out, well refined, and this is basically like a very strange kind. It's working on a system of diplomacy and negotiation, and consistent negotiation on an individual level for quantities of resources based on demand, or basically based on availability. Anyway, when you take into consideration that if I had 10 people, right, and they all, and each individual one of them was a part of a network, I'm making up a virtual state. I mean to call it a virtual state called Green Jello. I made that one up. Now, let's say there's 10 people making up this state, and each one has a position in government, but is also going about their regular lives. And each one has an obligation to pay maybe a certain amount of taxes or something. Anyway, the government system has within it things like projects, assets, accounting, talent, stuff like this, and land or regions, and all 10 of those people are spending maybe, 15% of their time and assets into this country as a citizen, and also holding a position in government at the same time, right? So they go and they are able to negotiate through the privilege system what they want, through the departments and everything, what they want to plan out for the state. Say it's like a welfare system or something. Well, within, you know, say that they take like those, their a percentage of their assets, and they put them in all as shared property within this thing, right? And of their time. Well, within a very brief period of time, they would be able to buy, with several $1 million, they would be able to buy a large amount of land. And they would take this land, and then with their projects, they build some giant thing, some giant project on there, right? Well, the way it's oriented, right? It could be like a welfare office, right? Now imagine that they're in the United States. This can really happen. I could really do this. Imagine in the United States, I go and I get a bunch of these people together, and I understand this is kind of an absurd concept, but I go and I build this building, and it's the welfare office for people that have access to the system, for people that have VIP, they have secure ID cards, right? A secure ID card with their citizenship, their social security number, and all that, and they go in there, and then whenever they are in desperate need, they can go get US dollars from there, right? Now, wouldn't that be really bizarre for people to just walk around and they see this giant building with a sign on it that says like Green Jello Welfare Office, and then they go in there and they have to apply for citizenship and all this? It's private property. You can't really say he can't build it there, right? And then, you might wonder, why did they build it there? No, they built it there for other people to ask why they built it there. It was public relations. They did it as marketing to get more citizens. And then when you go, well, maybe it's a pyramid scheme, right? It's not a pyramid scheme because every person that's a part of it can opt out anytime they want and be a part of a different network. See, but Green Jello isn't the system. It's not the name of the program. It's just an arena in the program, one of millions. It's a virtual state, is what I call it. And that's what I mean. That's why I was talking about having multiple citizenship, and how he talks about, or Noam Chomsky talks about anarcho-syndicalism, is what they can. What they can do is say, okay, well, I don't want to be a part of this state anymore. I want to liquidate everything and then go into a different one and start their own, and they can have it arranged entirely different. And then, and this one could be a monarchy, or, it could be parliament, or it could be something they make up, just completely make up, just for the fun of it. And it's just a really cool, interesting and cool concept, because you can grant citizenship to those secure places, which don't have to be physical properties, but could just be a website, this welfare system. By every person paying a certain amount of taxes, they can guarantee the security of their family wherever they are, kind of like insurance. And all this stuff has a legal track to it, or legal trail to it, so you can see every individual process, because this is part of the system. And it's just when you lay it out, because the entire model is like a Turing machine. It's deterministic and doesn't do anything except attack obstacles. So I mean, if the obstacle is a certain amount of money, it can come up with all these crazy concepts like cigarette butts, and this is total deprivation. This is why I like being down, in this condition, because I could go out by myself, and the program could recommend this, and I could have all the people in my state like, well, who's doing the tobacco farming, and I'd be like, that's me. I'm going to go farm tobacco. So I go out and I collect all the cigarette butts in the city, take all the tobacco out of it, and put them in bags, and make that into tobacco, and turn around and sell it. And that would be tobacco farming for the state. And it doesn't matter what people say about it per se, but people might say, well, that's not a real economic. Well, yeah, it is, because they're going to throw it away. That's recycling. So there are many things like that that can be used to make money in really quick ways, because it's a product that people want. The system works on its own. It can work on its own monetary system. So if you have a virtual state, it can have its own currency. So you don't have to deal with like the U.S. dollar and how much tobacco is worth. You only have to deal with the demand of the people that know that the product is available, and then you determine the market value based on the overall global market. So you could say, hey, I'd like to sell it to you, but I got this guy in the Czech Republic that wants to buy my tobacco for $42 USD or whatever. So when I look at it, and like I said, it's like me, like I'm running around. I really have nothing, and really people, often will deprive me. So it kind of acts as this, interesting position that I can try to get out of. But this is, all this talk and everything about just like government and everything, it kind of puts aside the fact that it's a lifestyle system. It doesn't depend on you spending all your time like talking about government and like economics and politics and all that. You are managing you're still managing the same amount of time you would if you were a member of any other state. You just have a position. So instead of going, well, I'm going to read the newspaper, you're like, well, I'm going to go make a law. So you're allowed to do that if you have the privilege to do it. So I don't know. I mean, it's really cool, and it has a lot of interest among my friends and family and stuff about how powerful the thing is, and that's why I wanted to discuss the literal and practical possibility of building this virtual state. I mean, is it a literal and real state? Because think Israel, for example. The Jews, were killed, and they founded Israel as a result of that. And I think that I could really literally be talking about a new Israel for Americans. You take people that are interested in or have a specific creative bent or talent, and put them into one large network, and you end up with this really big result. And that's the kind of thing that I am thinking about. I'm just like, well, I think it could be bigger than Europe or the United States, or I think it could be the biggest country in the world really quickly. I think it would, without a doubt, I think it would start buying up all the land and everything really quick, and it would push technology forward. So I don't see any flaw with it. Except, the inherent power that it has. I just wonder is what, there's an issue, right? Well, say that it consumes all the resources on Earth, like actually purchases all these resources on Earth, and then they have to have a vehicle which can travel into space and populate another planet to get resources from there, right? Now, it's not designed for this, and anything can be manipulated into having something like this happen. Well, what they need is they would need a vehicle in order to get there. Well, now, the current way the world is, and this is serious, there is not a vehicle that is fast enough, that can travel far enough, and transport enough people, in time to keep the result of economic resource depletion. And this is not out of because people are starving to death or dying. It's because they're bored or their coffee is cold. So, I mean, they would have to go and populate another country, but I get concerned about what would happen if they didn't have the vehicle. Then there would be a war. Or not necessarily war, but there would be conflict, and it's likely people would try to play chess with the thing. And I designed it like really screwed up so that like people try to play chess with it, it's not going to work. But I mean, there's of course going to be a million knockoffs. There's already a million knockoffs of the method I'm using. But I'm very confident in my method because not because I'm the one that conceived it, because I did a lot of research and a lot of theorizing and a lot of documentation on it. And you know, I sit here and I'm sitting out at a fiesta, you know, in the middle of Austin, Texas here, you know, and I think it's a very exciting time, you know, as far as these ideas are concerned. We're talking about new governments, new ways of living, and optimism. You know, it's much more than you know, optimism. It's an improved lifestyle over the quality of American life before there was ever any kind of civil conflict. So you know, I made it private, but I also made it so that every person that I invite can invite as many people as they want. So it should act, and what I'm betting on is that I'm going to add people who have a copy of it. They're going to like it because I'm getting sick of doing all these things. I'll have to market it myself, but they'll propagate it. I have a pretty good theory that they'll be the ones that will go out and propagate it to people. And you know, you have the threat of the military and everything coming in, so I've taken this strategy very literally. You know, I've thought about, since I based everything, and the United States, the entire country of the United States adopted this economic model of knowledge management and information technology, basing it off of New Zealand's economic model of knowledge management, which is highly successful, right? Well, these pseudo service-oriented economies don't rely on natural resources. They rely on intellectual resources, right? And you know, this is just an example. But I was thinking is that I would start a country, right, filled with like office people, and I would base it in Antarctica, and all these people could live in a giant mall in Antarctica. And I was like, well, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, you could actually do that. I've dealt with these type of projects. It wouldn't be that hard. I don't know I don't know how you would, how the climate or the ground or the soil and everything is there, and you have to run plumbing and all that. It's really not that bad. It's really, there are ways like the way the militaries do it, of doing it cheaply and, you know, in a way that is still effective. I mean, some of the ways militaries do things is good enough, you know, it's very reliable, just as good as the stuff that they use domestically. So, yeah, I was thinking I could actually go to Antarctica and start a country there, have a real country. And it's not a joke. There's a guy, his name's Dean Kamen. He invented the wheel that people ride. They ride it around here in Austin. The Segway machine. He invented the Segway. He has his own country. He bought an island off the coast of New York, and he founded it. I don't know how he registered it, but he has his own constitution, his own military and flag and all this. And you know, he's got citizens. It's a very small country. It's a very small island, but it's a real country. And he has like a tank and a helicopter, a APC vehicle, and some guns and stuff. That's his military. But he is he's just off of American territorial waters, so he's an American citizen, so he has the protection of the United States military. But it's pretty cool, because I mean I'm thinking about it, and I'm just like, well, there wouldn't be with the way, like, this country, look what this country did to itself, right? It completely destroyed itself. If I go to Antarctica with a bunch of people, I could probably have like a bigger economy than the United States. So I don't know, it's pretty amazing. Because I see these things, like I say these things and then they do them, and they're worth like $1 trillion. And it all works as I had anticipated. So it's really interesting. I mean, if there's one benefit out of this whole thing, it's being able to handle pressure. Because when I first almost made like a couple $1 million, I probably would have made like $20 million that year. I practically had a heart attack, and I quit working, and I quit everything and just laid on my couch all day, and that's how I got into studying this stuff. So I was like, well, what do I do if I have all that money? I have no idea. I was like, I get killed, I'll buy a skyscraper, and some guy will come and rob my vault and throw me off the top of it, because everything is still kind of like Chicago, So I had that in mind, and I read a lot. I read hundreds of books. All this stuff was, the best materials I could find. Very modern stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, one of the guys died. But yeah, it's pretty strange. I couldn't deal with pressure then, but these days, when I think about working with my former employer, or having access to a large amount of money, it makes me much less nervous than it did in the past, where whenever I was working on like a $4 million deal, which it's a lot of money, because 90% of it or something goes right into my employer's pocket, which in turn would pay me a little bit, a couple $1,000, or whatever. I was just having fun making them rich, and anyway, those things would make me really nervous, and so now now when I have all that money and I'm making the decisions on what to do with it, I'll be much better prepared to